G'day everyone. This is Rangadad, not financial advice, just the way I'm looking at the market. Sorry, just listening to the FOMC press conference. Same shit, different day. Economy's healthy, we're not worried about it, blah, 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 but we're still going to reduce target rates. This, man. Yeah, anyway. They're full of shit. They know there's some massive issues at the moment. They're just delaying it as long as they can, hoping they can fix it in the background in the meantime. It actually looks like Bitcoin's trying to hold this level. There's a lot of liquidations down here though. If we came into the 102,500 level, it would not surprise me in the slightest. Just to sweep that liquidity and then move back to the upside. There is some pretty good reasons why it would want to move back to the upside, mainly around vector candles. It has kind of reset a bit too. Like this move down has reset the sort of shorter time frame RSI indicators, so that's a good thing. But I mean, they could easily go a bit further, but as you can see here, was a little bit more of a vector candle to come into if it wanted to. This could just be a retest of the moving averages, Bollinger Band, 50 EMA, stuff like that. So just be careful of that. Powell's still talking at the moment, so this is probably going to be a bit bouncy until he's finished. The 1 hour 200 EMA is sitting at 102,800. And it's very close. We haven't touched it yet. That is a potential target. And that would basically tidy up your liquidity. I'd expect it to come down probably more into the bottom of this regression channel here. At the moment though, it's actually, it has had some bullish divergence in here. So that's something to keep in mind. There are vector candles above, particularly this one here at 106 to the top of that. And obviously we've still got this one back at the all-time high. Now, there's still some concerns around that and when we will actually get back up there. Mainly the things that I'm looking at, actually let's go here. Be easier on the 1 hour. So on CME there is a gap down to about 102,285. CME is a lot closer to the other sexes at the moment. It's sort of, it would kind of make sense for it to actually come back into here given how close it is. The thing that you got to watch out for though is this is looking like a head and shoulders as well. So people will be looking at this as head and shoulders, which would proof out to be about that would potentially bring it back down to 98,625. that concerns me a little. Not going to lie, because the 1 hour is still looking pretty weak on a number of different indicators. Particularly the cyclic RSI is looking not great. That's actually bearish divergence on the hourly on these two. So yeah, that's something to definitely be concerned about. Last night, I took 75% of my holdings off the table, just cashed it out. And I put it back into USDT, so I'm glad I did that because the US dollar is just ripping at the moment compared to the Aussie dollar. So yeah, just with Bitcoin, be careful. This is a pretty critical level here. If it breaks below that, we could actually flush quite quickly, which would suggest that this is going to be a temporary top here, and the downside may have started. The other thing to keep in mind, let's go back to this one. So we did actually tag the pivot, the monthly pivot, with that all-time high there. We have broken a trend line. We haven't retested this trend line as such, at least not on the 1 hour. We don't necessarily have to. Bitcoin doesn't always retest when it's breaking through key levels, which potentially means it's going further. Yeah, whether we come all the way back here or not will be interesting. That's certainly possible. What's the percentage drop on that? 15%. Yeah. As I said yesterday, this is what we kind of got to expect at the all-time highs at the moment. There's going to be big swings in both directions. Whether it does want to come back up and reclaim some of the vectors that are up here before moving back down again or not, it's just going to be how the market makers want to fuck with people, and how they want to take that liquidity. So interestingly, Sol hasn't actually broken that 50 EMA to the downside yet. I'm kind of waiting on that to happen. That's going to be, if that breaks to the downside, then I would say we're looking a lot sicker. Ethereum needs to find support today at about this level, because there is somewhat of a trend line through here. That's, yeah, needs to find support here. If we break below that, I'd be expecting the 3,600 on Ethereum, potentially lower. Actually, potentially even lower again. So if you take this as a double top, then ultimately you're probably going to find recovery of this vector in here at about 3,300. Hopefully that doesn't put in an M formation. If this puts in an M formation and confirms that, it's going to happen over months, but that would actually potentially drive it further as well. Probably back into that value area low around 3,000. But it would also be a change of trend, like complete change of trend. So we could potentially go lower. So yeah, jumped around a bit today, but just trying to feel around what the likelihood is of different scenarios with the FOMC going the way it is. Bitcoin's still got a bit to run potentially before it breaks that. I think this is the 13 EMA from memory. Yeah. So the 13 EMA is a pretty critical one. If it breaks and holds below that, then further downside. But at the moment, that's sitting at 101,700. So again, sitting around that 102 level wouldn't be the end of the world for Bitcoin at the moment. It might even sweep down into the 100K 500 level. That wouldn't be a bad level for a bounce because there is quite a bit of volume through there, and it's probably going to find some support there. It all just depends whether this is a temporary pullback or if it's actually the start of something bigger. Just going to jump around a bit. So Qs, that's a big pullback on the Qs. Momentum crossing to the downside, BBWP crossing. That suggests more downside. The good thing is global liquidity is seeming to take a bounce to the upside off a key level. Like we had this in here as a key level. Somewhere around that level. That could actually help support the markets. It'll probably bounce a little bit as the stock market comes down. But then that should provide support for the market at some stage. And then we just got to look to see whether the market makes another all-time high or whether it actually makes a lower high next time around. So this pullback is very much needed and very much welcomed. If you're a bull, you actually want to see a decent pullback here, because typically after that first divergence, then we get the run up. We do get another leg up typically. Yeah, so close that gap there. That's interesting. Yeah, I doubt this is going to come straight back up. There is, I believe there is some vector candles on the this hourly candle is a vector candle, so I expect a little bit of a bounce here. Yeah, might even retry higher, but at the moment this is a big flush on Nasdaq. Probably finds support around 21,860. But it's going to bounce pretty hard when it bounces, because it will recover this vector candle at least up to that level, I would think. 22,136. Flushing out a lot of longs at the moment. Interesting to have a look at the options levels for this. Yeah, interesting. The equal weight kind of led the way. Same with the SPY. The SPY actually didn't have a vector. Doesn't have volume on it. Holy shit. That is a massive drop. Where is that going to stop? Probably not going to stop till we get somewhere around here. 593, which on ES. Oh, man. That looks nasty. That's liquidation. That's got to be driven by liquidation. That volume is huge. That is the biggest volume we have seen since actually the low, like the low down here, which is not a bad thing if you're going to get those sort of volumes at the bottom of a drop. But that drop wasn't as bad either. It did get bought up pretty hard. So it's kind of what you want to see on the S&P in the next day or so, is a bit of buying. Do have a gap down here at 5,600. Don't think they're there anytime soon. Vector candles are down around 58.60, but some vectors at 6,000 as well. 6,000's the level of the options from what I remember from the FX Evolution video yesterday. There's a lot of puts at that level, so I would expect some support there. But wowee, that's a massive drop. Well done if you got into some shorts in ES. Equal weight. So this is probably the biggest indicator of what might happen. The fact that we've broken that level, reconfirmed it, and then smashing down through that. Yes, you'll probably get a bounce at about 176 on RSP. I do expect that bounce to not last very long, and it probably will flush to 170 odd, back into this level here, back into that trend line. There. Apart from these horizontal levels, so there's the support level. Just going to draw that in. That's probably going to be a bounce level somewhere around that. And then you're probably going to get another one if it breaks through that. That there is not a bad level. Just that probably somewhere around there. But yeah, that's certainly breaking a pretty long-term channel. If you just looked at the smaller drops, like even that there was a pretty good channel. It's broken everything at the moment on the equal weight. So unfortunately, the market didn't like that plan. So we'll get rid of that. If you want to see a turnaround, you really want to see global liquidity come back up. Now, what I did hear in the FOMC meeting summary that he was going on with, basically they're reducing certain things on their balance sheet. So there's basically quantitative tightening still going on. And that's what's sort of led to this drop in global. Oh fuck, what do I call it? Anyway, that. Global equity or whatever. Oh shit, I got a mental blank. Anyway, you want to see that picking back up. So it'll be stuff going on behind the scenes. You want to see the Fed start to support the markets. Far out. What is that in terms of percentage drops? That's getting close to 2.8%. You probably got nearly 3% drop on the Russell. Top to bottom, yeah, over 3% in a couple of hours. 1 hour so far. Wowee. Holy shit, that looks nasty. Only 1% on S&P 500, but yeah, 1.5% a day. That's probably a good spot for it to bounce. Picked up that vector candle, but yeah, it will bounce to take out a lot of the shorters. It's just a matter of when. But man, it looks like they're pulling some serious longs out of the market at the moment. Have another quick look at the Qs. Jesus. Nasty shit. Yeah. I mean, this is a good spot for it to actually bottom and retrace a bit. Again, retracements are probably gonna um, finish up around 94 on the equal weight Qs. Not a lot for them to come back up to further than that. It could literally do this, like just base here and then go back up. Very interesting though. This you're gonna have balls if you're gonna trade this at the moment. They could rip your new arsehole to the upside if you're gonna short it. Um, if you're gonna long it, same deal. If there's no way you've got a base here yet, so it's probably a matter of just wait and see how everything settles down. Interestingly, the equal weight um, is that current? That looks current. Yeah, it is. The equal weight XLY XLP is still hovering at the highs, so it's probably just saying that everything's dropping equally. If we look at both of them, yeah, so they're just dropping an equal amount. Which is probably something to be cautious about. Um, hmm, regional banking, it's probably going to fill this gap, I would say. Which won't be great for that trend line. This is a pretty massive downturn in the banking though, so it may not close this gap yet. We may actually get a bounce and then come back down to close the gap. This is not looking healthy across the board. This was sort of this is a major economic indicator as far as I'm concerned, and the fact that we're looks like we're going to close below this level here, it's going to keep going. Probably with bounces along the way. This is pretty overextended to the downside, but yeah, the market is taking the opportunity to flush at the moment. SMH. So semiconductors has only dropped a little bit. DJI Gold's actually bouncing a little bit. DJT Gold. This will be interesting. If it can find a base here, then it's probably not a bad thing. I think it's just because everything's going down at the moment. VIX is finally going up. Probably see more blood until the VIX gets up to around that $20, around the 20 mark. Probably, to be honest with you, want to see it around 23. Skew. Yesterday, the skew actually went up. So, bit of a fake out on the skew. And that's probably why we're flushing so hard, to be honest. There were just so many calls in the market. DAX is pulling back. Chinese market, it's pretty flat, but we'll see how that goes on open today. Yeah. UK 100, it's flushing. Be interesting to see if it finds some support around that 200 EMA there. BBWP is increasing though, and we're in the bearish control zone, so this is potentially going to come back into these levels here. Two big, lots of vector candles with on the wicks, even down into the 7,700 mark. So, she ain't looking pretty globally. 10% drop would actually, yeah, probably bring you even further than that. Let's just play out a 10% drop on the SPY. Oh. Pick up these vector candles. I was more expecting a 10% drop to happen after inauguration or around inauguration. We're a month away from that at the moment. So this may not play out the way things have in the past. Just depends whether we get a bounce here and a new high, but that's a pretty good level for it to come back into there with the vector candles. Man, everyone will be calling for a lot more at that stage, which may actually happen. Like, the economy's fucked. Anyway, TLT. So this is a nasty breakdown on TLT. It wouldn't surprise me if this still finds a bit of a base somewhere here. I don't think we'll get lower than sort of this level in here, the 88, 87 sort of level. It could happen, but I don't think it'll happen right now. Yeah, that's a very interesting. There was a massive buy in here that led to that pump. We didn't really see a big sell there though. So could just be picking up long-term positions. This is a long-term traded sort of instrument there. That is okay. So high yield junk, the bonds market is basically protesting something here. Should find a bit of a bounce here. At 200 EMA is at a decent support level. Not the best, but I would say decent. You do have a fair bit of trading or a fair bit of resistance on the way up there. So look for a bounce, but I do suspect bounces are going to probably be met with sells. LQDIEF, that has confirmed to the downside, breakdown of that trend line. So yeah, look, this is all suggesting a bit more of a protracted downside move. 2-year, 10 years spiking a little. So yields are going up. Ooh, breakout there too. In fact, if you look at it, that, yeah, you could potentially say it's already broken out and confirmed, but yeah, that's interesting. People are selling off their bonds. Which is basically just suggesting they don't have any faith in the US to be able to repay its debt. Copper is continuing to the downside, so yeah, this is looking nasty too, really. Copper could really break hard to the downside. 3.66 is a potential target on copper. If we don't find support at around $3.95, then, and to be honest with you, I don't know why you would. That looks like it should play out as a decent head and shoulders. So even $4.04 on copper is it's going to be pretty interesting. If this is a protracted move to the downside, then everything's probably going to move to the downside. Gold will probably come back into this level. May move back up from that. But as I said the other day, did listen to someone interestingly talk about gold is probably going to come back with the market pretty hard when the market moves. So it makes a little bit of sense, but there is a lot of interest in gold in central banks still. They have still been buying up. Just we get delayed info on that, so it may have actually already happened. Silver's actually looking like it will break more to the downside. So given that I'm up in these, I'm going to sell out of gold and silver at the moment. US oil. I'd expect this to actually break back down into this region here. Unless someone manipulates it. Yeah, DXY, a 1% move to the upside on the DXY. And it looks like it still wants more. That doesn't look like it'll play out. If this double tops here, that would be pretty epic. So if it does find resistance here, there's nothing really to suggest that that will be the case. I'd expect Dixie to come up 110. Just fucking weird. Like, people are selling off the bonds. Interest rates are going up a little. The Japanese could put a handbrake on all of this and completely screw the market over. Sorry, they could put a handbrake on the Dixie, which might help us find a temporary bottom on the market. But at the same time, if the Japanese increase their interest rate, then that could actually lead to further unwind due to the carry trade unwind. So interestingly, IBIT, that looks like a pretty decent sell at the top there. I'd be waiting to see if there are any buys come through anytime soon. You're looking for big buys on this, probably around that level there, which is essentially the CME gap fill as well. I think it's going to be the target. Coin, yeah. So Coinbase looked like it got a buy there. It wouldn't surprise me if that was a buy, but not a huge one. Just people averaging in, I'd say. That's actually the 2x long too. Maybe they're getting out. Energy sector's still struggling, which suggests oil might keep going to the downside. All right. Oh yeah, flushing. So we broke that P level in there. Potentially, I mean, expect a little bounce into that 200. Potentially, it actually just looks like it wants to flush at the moment. Oh, it looks like people have cancelled a lot of long orders in here too. So I'm just going to refresh this. Oh man, they did pick up some, but there's definitely some gaps in there as well. It could come down and eat all of this down into 100k. Yeah, this is interesting. What's the drop so far? I think I measured that, but whoa, flushing hard. 6% nearly. Interesting. More than 6%. We just grabbed another big order there, unless they cancelled it. It's not great at refreshing this particular chart. Big sell volumes. This is a pretty decent liquidation event. Yeah, we've grabbed most of this now, so have a a look at the weekly. Well, still plenty to go, but once it 100,500 is a pretty good level. Big drop in CVD. The spot CVD kind of alluded to us that this was a potential to happen. And if you watch the previous videos, you'll see I was concerned about that. Something to keep an eye on in the future. Really, to find a proper bottom, we want to see this starting to pick back up. Open interest is starting to pick back up on these candles. There is a fair bit of bidding happening here, so that is good as well. What you want to see is lots of people trying to short this drop. Not exactly seeing huge amounts yet. Fuck, nearly hit that. Nearly flushed it already. Whoa. Have a quick look. I mean, basically the key to this at the moment is just fucking wait and see where it settles out. There will be rips back to the upside. There's too many vector candles being created here. So probably wait until once there's a rip, but hopefully you took some profits off the table yesterday when I suggested it. And yeah, potentially we just want to see it settle down on the longer term time frames before buying back in. Tesla didn't quite hit the 500. It's pretty bloody across the board at the moment. Nasdaq 2%. Looks like the SPY has found some support here. It's not dropping much more than that 1.5%. Still an hour left nearly. So what do you want to see with the SPY? Let's go to a short time chart. This is a good sign too for Bitcoin. It looks like it's potentially found a little bit of a base. Where to come into? Oh, I'd like to see it go a little bit further, to be honest. Just pretty well to 100K. There's some decent vectors there for it to pick up, and plenty of liquidity there as well. Might not necessarily do it this candle, but I would expect it to sort of come back down. Back up to SPY. So SPY's still chugging through on the 15-minute. You kind of just want to see this potentially a V-shaped recovery with just chop on the way back up. I don't think that'll happen so much. Like if it does, that'll be a temporary push back up. But ideally, you want to see on the shorter time frames a bit of sideways and potentially like a W formation like that to move away. But at the moment, and you'll probably see that in the last few candles before the close, if it's planning on moving back up tomorrow. It's still closing these candles on their lows at the moment. Massive sell. Wow. Damn, I wish I was trading this to be honest. Let's go. Sorry. A minute. Very interesting wick to the downside there. It's Bitcoin's getting some buying happening at the moment, which we saw on the Saw it in here. Well, that's evening out. Open interest is increasing a little bit here as well. So, dang, that's a big volume candle. Looks like it's trying. So I'd expect this to slow down to the downside. As I said, potentially down into 100K and then bounce back up. At which point, I don't, just based on the whole market crashing like this, I don't think we're going to make a new all-time high soon. It depends how hard these guys are going to buy it up. Have a quick look at the BTC long. So most of these guys are out of their positions already. I want to see this start to pick back up. I think that's going to be your first indicator that we're getting close to the bottom. But the fact that we haven't even started to see a pickup in this yet suggests this is not going to be the bottom. So yeah, I'd be selling the rip on this. That indicator is not a bad sell signal there on the 3 minute. Better one up here though. All right. That long doesn't look like it'll play out, but again, ignore this indicator. I'm still working on it. So Ethereum's dumping still. Ethereum looks like it might have found a bid there, but I don't think that'll last too long. Sol's still kind of look like it wants to hold a bit. Just going to go to Sol on this one. Sol needs to pick back up and finish back above that 50 for me to be bullish. Otherwise, I think alts are going to bleed harder. That's potentially a 30% correction on Sol. I don't think, like, if it breaks below this wick here, then I would expect Sol to at least come down into 178. Which is about a 30% drop. 178. Yeah, about a 30% drop, potentially from the top, not from here. Yeah, not much green in crypto land today. Oh man, that's potentially going to come down hard. I'm pretty well going to put a sell everything and just wait for it to find some signs of some good levels on the dailies. Cage bar could come back. It could bounce. Like, there could be enough interest in some of these alts that they will bounce from this pullback. The fact it's not pulling back a bit harder is suggesting that, but it could come back 40% or more. I think the play at the moment is to probably just let this settle out, see where everything lands. Wait for that global liquidity to start tick up again. Total crypto market cap is coming down as well. Cleared these wicks so far. As I said the other day, like, this could come back into 3 trillion again. 16%. 16% from the top, which Bitcoin would be 16%. Yeah, I mean that would potentially pick up the rest of this wick in here. Man, that'll be a scary sort of level if it hits there. Because if it goes further than that, it will potentially flush pretty hard. At which point 80K is probably the target. But this is definitely looking like a more prolonged move. What you're looking for is potentially something like this. A couple of decent days down. Wicks, you can see here, wicks to the upside. So people buying the dip, but then just gets pushed down again. One thing we haven't really seen, like it's more like this, we haven't seen vector candles to the upside here over the last few days. So it could be like 2 reasonably big downside days and then just choppiness. So we could have another couple of days, then a bounce, then more pullback. And this one here was the one I was talking about previously, where we got roughly a 30% drop from top to bottom. It was about 30%, right from there to the bottom, 31%. I suspect that's roughly what this is going to look like. And as you can see, they came down, picked up these wicks, and the other green vector candle again sort of found the levels. So yeah, at this stage it looks like sell the rip is the play. Just as in get out of your current positions on the rips, not necessarily try and short the market, because Bitcoin could just completely go in the opposite direction. If you are going to short, you use pretty low leverage, is my recommendation. Yeah, I reckon that 80K level's an interesting sort of target. All right, that'll do for today.